I'm the disposable husband in a romance novel, the guy the heroine marries just to make the hero jealous enough to come back and stake his claim. The hero throws a check at me, the heroine slides a debit card my way, and I'm supposed to vanish. So, I did. I took the money, signed the divorce papers, and booked the first flight to an island paradise. And then, I woke up, blinking, stunned. I took in the opulent, sun-drenched penthouse. I let out a long breath just as the butler's voice, smooth as aged whiskey, echoed beside me. "Mr. Vance, the uni you requested has just arrived from Hokkaido." A jolt shot through me. This wasn't a dream. I'd been reborn, dropped right into the story as Leo Vance, the cannon fodder husband in a marriage of convenience. My wife, Catherine Jang, was the very definition of a powerhouse CEO. Sharp, untouchable. Respected, feared. My job description? Exist beautifully. Spend her money. Stay out of the way. She didn't respect me, but she chose me because I was supposedly docile. A slow smile crept across my face. This was the golden ticket, and I wasn't about to waste it. I practically bounced out of bed, a man on a mission. I had the 5-star caliber private chef whip up a seafood feast for breakfast. After polishing off a tower of oysters and crab, legs the butler Alfred cleared his throat. "Will you be sending flowers to Miss Jang at the office today, sir?" Ah, yes, the old Leo's daily routine. Fawning over Catherine, sending lavish gifts she'd toss in the trash without a second. Thought I considered the alternative. Why not spend that money on myself? "No, not today," I replied. Alfred's eyebrow twitched in surprise, but he bowed his head respectfully and retreated. With that, I took the opportunity to explore my gilded cage. The penthouse offered panoramic views of Central Park, and my personal holy grail, a fully loaded gaming rig that looked like it belonged on a professional esports stage. My spirits soared. I spent the morning dominating a first-person shooter, had a catered lunch, and then hit Fifth Avenue for the afternoon. I bought anything that caught my eye, finally experiencing the pure, unadulterated joy of having a sales associate clear out an entire boutique for a private shopping session. I didn't see Catherine until that evening. I was sprawled out on a plush velvet sofa, hydrating face mask on, watching a Twitch stream on the wall-sized television. Catherine's entrance was sharp and controlled. The old Leo would have leaped up to take her briefcase, help her with her shoes. But that's what the staff was for, wasn't it? "Leo," she said, her voice cool and measured. "My MX alert says you spent over $1 million today. What did you buy?" I peeled off the mask, looked at her, admiring the sharp, perfect lines of her face. I shrugged. "A few things." "What? Feeling the pinch?" "It's not the money," she said. "Just be more discreet. It's not a good look while the company is in a sensitive quarter, right?" Ah. My conspicuous consumption could create bad press for her. Still, $1 million was pocket change to her. I nodded. "Got it. Next time I'll have the brand send their collections here for me to choose from. I wanted to experience the full at-home service treatment." Catherine didn't reply. She just disappeared into her home office to work. "Atta girl," I thought. "Work hard. Make that money. The more you earn, the more satisfying it is for me to spend it." When we got married, Catherine had promised me 5% of the Yang Corporation stock. On paper, that made my net worth a cool $1 billion. Why would I ever cross her? All I had to do was wait for the hero to show up, take his buyout check, accept Catherine's settlement, and walk away with a double payday. It was the perfect plan. But when would that hero finally get here? An idea sparked. I poured a glass of milk, went to her office, cracked the door open. In that split second, I snapped a photo of her buried in paperwork and posted it to Twitter. "Long night at the office for my brilliant wife. You got this, babe." I even tagged her official account. There was no way the hero would miss that. He followed her every move online. Which, incidentally, meant many followed me, too. Any ripple in our domestic bliss would have him on high alert. Sure, enough. Later that night, Catherine left. I watched her town car disappear into the New York City night. She didn't come home. I couldn't stop grinning. A quick check of the hero's social media showed nothing, but around 2 a.m., Catherine posted a picture to her private Instagram story. 2 hands, fingers intertwined. The background was a sea of roses. A bottle of expensive red wine uncorked on the table. The composition had his clumsy, straightforward style written all over it. "Come on, guys," I cheered internally. "Hurry up and ask for that divorce." I was so excited, I called the private chef back and had him prepare another lobster feast. As I sat there cracking open a claw, I savored the moment. The joys of being rich were truly beyond my wildest dreams. Alfred the butler watched me with a pained expression. He finally spoke. "Sir, with all due respect," I raised an eyebrow. "What is it, Alfred?" "The madam didn't come home last night. And you're still eating? Shouldn't you be buying her a gift, something to smooth things over?" Alfred was clearly aware a storm was brewing. I, on the other hand, couldn't care less. I smiled and patted his shoulder. "Relax, Alfred. It wouldn't matter if I bought her the entire Tiffany & Cumber flagship store. Her mind is already made up." Hearing this, Alfred's face fell. He looked at me with a mix of pity and despair. I just shrugged and went back to my lobster. Catherine finally swept in late the next morning. She was wearing a different outfit. A royal blue sheath dress clung to her frame, accentuating her impossibly long, pale legs. I couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. The woman was the novel's heroine for a reason. She was a certified knockout. My gaze lingered. She frowned. "What are you looking at?" "Just admiring the view. You look great." The words were out before I could stop them. I coughed, remembering I had a role to play. My persona was the clingy, insecure husband. I deepened my voice. "Where were you last night?" Her eyes widened in surprise before narrowing into icy slits. "That is not a question you are entitled to ask." "Actually, it is," I shot back, emboldened. "In case you forgot, we're still legally married." "Are you with him now? Do you have any respect for yourself, for me?" "Yes, keep pushing," I screamed internally. "Tell me to get lost. Tell me it's over. Insult me. You're Catherine Jang, a titan of industry. Don't let a kept man like me tell you what to do." I was practically begging her to blow up. Instead, Catherine was silent for a few seconds. Then she said, "I understand. I'll be more careful in the future." And just like that, she went upstairs. She would be more careful. But she was breathless. That slap was supposed to be the end of it. A hard stop, a reset. But instead, she lingered. Her fingers trembled, still outstretched, hovering near my jaw like even she wasn't sure what had just happened. I stood there, heart pounding, cheek burning, but a thrill ran through me. Because this wasn't apathy. This wasn't indifference. Catherine Jang, the untouchable empress of boardrooms and quarterly takeovers, had just reacted. With fire. With heat. She stormed off again, of course. That was her way. Clicked. Heels on marble, the silky rustle of her robe trailing behind her like a comet tail. But not before I saw it. The flicker in her eyes. That dangerous flicker of confusion and something far worse. Curiosity. Back in my suite, I stared at myself in the mirror. Half a welt bloomed across my face. I touched it gently, then smiled. I was supposed to be the disposable man, the temporary, the narrative filler. But Catherine wasn't letting me go. Not yet. Not even with Nick Thorne glittering in the wings like some billionaire Perseus here to rescue her. And that meant the story had changed. Alfred knocked gently. "Shall I prepare another apology gift, sir? Perhaps something safer than milk?" I laughed, a real low laugh. "No need, Alfred. Tonight, I'm the one she won't be able to stop thinking about." "But, sir," he hesitated, "you do realize this is a very dangerous game you're playing." I looked out the window at the city glittering like the surface of a shattered diamond. It's not a game anymore. It's war. Because somewhere between the fake kisses and social media bait, I'd started to enjoy this. Not just the penthouse or the money or the lobster breakfasts. No, it was the dance, the push and pull, the power struggle. I wasn't Leo Vance, the pushover, anymore. I was the man Catherine Jang couldn't figure out. And maybe, just maybe, the one she couldn't forget. Off guard. Isabel Young, the infamous shadow queen of the family empire, offering me protection. It felt like getting adopted by a dragon after barely escaping a lion's den. I leaned back, trying to play it cool. "That depends," I said, slowly. "What's in it for you?" she smirked. "Oh, Leo, don't play dumb. You're a wild card. Unpredictable. You caused chaos just by existing in our family, and now you're rich, unclaimed, and freshly unbound from Catherine's leash. That makes you interesting. Which is more than I can say for 90% of the parasites that orbit our world. So, what? You want me to be your chaos pet?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. She laughed, a throaty, unapologetic sound. "No, darling. I want you to be my partner. Quietly, of course. There are deals to be made, fronts to be built. I could use someone who doesn't owe anyone in this city. And let's face it, your image as the poor, jilted husband is very marketable." My head spun. I had been ready to vanish into some island resort and waste a year on massages and mojitos. But now Isabel was offering me something I hadn't expected. Purpose. And power. The kind that came from riding shotgun with someone who knew exactly how to turn whispers into leverage. "I'm listening," I said. Her smile widened. "Good. First, we're going to leak a story to the press. One that paints you as the noble ex who stepped aside for true love. Your stock's going to go through the roof. Then I'll introduce you to a few friends, power players, the kind who wouldn't open their doors to just anyone." "And what do I do in return?" I asked cautiously. She sipped her drink. "Just be yourself, charming, harmless, a little reckless, but always on my side." I considered that. After all, what did I have to lose? My old life was gone. Catherine had Nick. The Jang family had disowned me. But Isabel was offering me a second act. "I'm in," I said. She clinked her glass against mine. "Welcome to the real game, Leo." And just like that, the disposable side character had flipped the script. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but one thing was clear. I wasn't out of the story, not even close. A sleek, ultra-modern space with gold-veined marble, floors and lighting so dim it felt like stepping into a jewel box. A discreet hostess led us to a private dining suite already prepared for 3, the table glowing with soft candlelight, menus printed on black cardstock, and a chilled bottle of vintage champagne waiting on ice. The client was already there, a silver-haired investment mogul with sharp eyes and an easy grin. Isabel greeted him with a kiss on the cheek and a warmth I hadn't yet seen in a business setting. "Mr. Liao," she purred, "I brought you something special tonight, our new acquisition." The man turned his eyes to me and chuckled. "Ah, the infamous Leo." Ex-husband turned. "What now? Court jester? Luxury mascot?" I smiled, raising my glass. "Let's go with financially liberated social experiment. Much sexier." He laughed and clinked glasses with me. I like him. Already. Dinner went exactly how Isabel wanted it to, seamless, luxurious, with just the right blend of entertainment and business maneuvering. I did what I was told. I ate lobster, black cod, truffle risotto, uni toast. I raved about each course, with genuine pleasure, and before long our client was laughing and toasting and nodding like he was already sold. At one point, Isabel placed her hand lightly on my thigh under the table, a possessive gesture. I wasn't sure if it was for the client's benefit or Catherine's, should she have followed us. Either way, I didn't move it. By dessert, the deal was practically sealed. Later that night, as we walked out into the velvet Manhattan air, Isabel turned to me with a satisfied smile. "You did good tonight," she said, slipping off her heels and handing them to her driver. Thanks, I replied. For what exactly? Eating? Smiling? No, she said, studying me. For playing the role, for understanding when to speak and when to shut up. You don't get it yet, Leo, but you will. Being rich isn't about money. It's about performance, perception, positioning. You were born a peasant, but you could be royalty if you wanted. I blinked at her, uncertain whether I should feel insulted or flattered. She leaned in, her breath warm near my ear. But if you ever betray me, Leo, if you ever go crawling back to Catherine, I'll crush you like a roach. Understood? Crystal, I said, my heart thudding. Isabel was smiling when she said it, of course, always smiling. As her limo pulled away, I watched the taillights vanish into the city and felt a strange surge in my chest. Not fear, not exactly. Anticipation. In the novel I thought I knew, the protagonist married the cold heroine and faced off against the unbeatable hero. But maybe that wasn't my story anymore. Maybe I was rewriting the book, and this time, the villainess had chosen me. Hi. Yeah, I'm here, she said, her tone suddenly tight and measured. I stood there silently while she walked toward the window, speaking in clipped tones I couldn't quite make out. The little tabby padded over to me and rubbed its head against my leg again, purring like a motorboat. It was a strange contrast, this soft domestic stillness and Catherine's stormy presence. After a minute, she hung up and stood there for a moment, gripping the phone tightly. Problem? I asked, though I already knew the answer. She didn't respond right away. Then finally she turned to me, her eyes hard and tired. Nick thinks you're sabotaging the West Side Project. He wants me to cut all ties with you. I blinked. What? I'm literally your sister's assistant. If I were sabotaging anything, I'd be out of a job in 5 minutes. I know, she muttered. But he doesn't care about logic. He's paranoid. Controlling. And the more he sees me wavering, the worse it gets. Then leave him. Her head snapped up. Excuse me? I met her gaze evenly. You're clearly unhappy. You look miserable, Catherine. I've seen you smile more in the last 10 minutes with my cat than in all the years you've worked under Nick's thumb. She looked away, her jaw clenched. You don't understand. With Nick, there's power. There's security. There's also no air, I said softly. She didn't reply, but the silence between us spoke volumes. Finally, she set down the coffee cup and straightened her blazer. Tell Isabel to back off the West Side Project. That's all I came here for. Noted, I said. She turned to leave, but paused at the door. You were right, by the way, about the cat. You really do seem more peaceful now. I smirked. It's the purring. Works better than therapy. A flicker of something passed over her face, regret maybe, or nostalgia. Then she was gone. After she left, I sat back on the couch, the tabby now curled in my lap. I scratched her chin absently, my mind racing. Catherine's words echoed in my head. She was unraveling, and Nick's grip on her was tightening by the day. It wasn't just about a development project anymore. This rivalry was spiraling into something darker. And Isabel? Isabel was playing to win. I didn't know how long I could keep dancing between them. One sister saw me as a threat. The other saw me as a tool, or maybe something more. Either way, I was in the middle of a war, and both queens were moving their pieces fast. That night, I dreamed of a chessboard, Catherine and Isabel on opposite ends, each with their own army, and me, a pawn in designer shoes, balancing a cocktail glass and a dagger. The only question was, how long could I keep from being sacrificed? Tools, I'm just at Leo's place, catching up. What did you think I was doing? Catherine's voice was quiet but curt as she spoke into her phone. I sat there watching her with a bemused expression as she paced lightly near the window. I know, I'll be back soon, she added before hanging up. She stood, brushing down her blazer and headed for the door. But just as she was about to leave, she paused. Her hand rested on the doorknob, and she turned to glance back at me. Leo, she said softly, her voice unexpectedly gentle. Sometimes I really envy you. I didn't reply. I just watched her go. There was something fragile in the way her shoulders curved as she walked down the hallway and out of my life. Again. As soon as she was gone, I did something petty but deeply satisfying. I snapped a picture of her retreating silhouette and sent it to Nick with a short message. Hey Nick, your fiancée just stopped by to complain that you don't spend enough time with her. You're one of the richest men in the world. Try putting in a little effort, man. His reply came back in seconds. Don't let me see you two alone together again. This guy was unbelievable. What did I do to deserve this? I was minding my own business, drinking coffee, feeding my cat, and suddenly, I was public enemy number one in his jealous little empire. That was it. I couldn't stay in this villa anymore. The place reeked of old tension and fading memories. Without a second thought, I called up a real estate agent and put it on the market. When Isabel found out, she raised an eyebrow. You're selling your house? She asked, clearly intrigued. Don't tell me you're planning to live at the office. You're not that dedicated. The company did have corporate apartments, but the thought of sharing space with other employees in a dorm-style setup made me cringe. If you're not opposed, Isabel offered, her voice casual, but purposeful, and you're worried about him finding you, you could always move in with me. I looked at her, stunned. She raised a brow. If we're living together, Nick won't suspect anything and he'll stop harassing you. What do you think? Best of all, no rent. A jolt went through me. Was she trying to make me her live-in husband? Isabel rolled her eyes, already anticipating the question. The John family doesn't step in the same river twice. You're overthinking it. Her blunt dismissal shattered whatever ridiculous fantasy was brewing in my head, and honestly, she had a point. Me moving in with Isabel just after my divorce from Catherine? The optics would be a PR disaster. Besides, I had money. I wasn't some broke ex-husband looking for a handout. So I did the sensible thing. I bought a sprawling apartment in a high-security high-rise, complete with keycard access and a strict no-guests policy. That meant no unexpected visits. No Catherine. Surprisingly, after that last awkward encounter, Catherine seemed to get the message. She stopped reaching out. No more unannounced visits, no late-night texts. Then came the big day, the bidding for the West Side Development Project. As expected, Isabel lost. Nick stood triumphantly at the front of the conference hall, his arm possessively wrapped around Catherine's waist. There was a smirk on his face, rare and smug. It was so out of character that for a second, I wondered if he'd been replaced by a slightly more expressive body double. But Isabel, to my complete astonishment, wasn't upset at all. No anger, no dramatic sighs or speeches. She just turned around and started walking. I rushed to catch up with her. Izzy, don't let it get to you. It's not worth getting upset over. Hurry up, she snapped, her voice brisk. We need to go sign a contract. Sign a contract? I repeated, confused. What contract? She didn't answer, just led me through a separate wing of the building. And that's when I saw him, Mr. Shan, the CEO of Sterling Global, standing there with a calm smile. It all clicked into place. This wasn't a loss. It was a setup, a bait and switch. Isabel turned to me, her smile unapologetic. Of course that piece of land is a money pit. Whoever gets it is going to lose a fortune. The contract I just signed, however, is worth $10 billion. $10 billion. This deal cements my position at Gian Corp, she said, eyes gleaming with quiet pride. Who can compete with me now? You stole Nick Thorne's deal, I said, still in shock. This was the international partnership he'd been chasing for months, she shrugged. I wouldn't call it stealing. It's called being better at the game. It all made sense now. Nick had returned to the States for Catherine, delaying his plans just long enough for Isabel to swoop in and seal the deal. And what a deal it was. It was always going to benefit the Jiang family one way or another, she added coolly. Better that I'm the one to bring it home than him, don't you think? I stared at her, speechless. It hit me then. You used me, I said. You deliberately used me as a smokescreen, didn't you? Isabel didn't even flinch. She patted my cheek and said matter-of-factly, "What else?" After signing the papers, she poured 2 glasses of red wine. She handed one to me with a smile. "You know, you're actually a pretty good partner, Leo. You're adaptable, enthusiastic, and you go with the flow. Most importantly," she added, her eyes twinkling, "you're incorruptible." I snorted. "Thanks. I threw money, power, and even myself at you, and you didn't take the bait. It's truly remarkable. I hereby declare you my official partner in crime, Leo Vance." Wow. So that was what all of it had been. The credit card, the dinners, the offer to move in, one giant loyalty test disguised as daily life. What she didn't know was that I already had more money than I needed. I could retire tomorrow and live in blissful laziness with my cat forever. The news of Isabel's deal hit John Corp like a bomb. By the time Nick found out, it was far too late. He stormed into the headquarters, rage radiating off him like heat from a blast furnace, his eyes locked on Catherine, and though he reined in his fury, it was clear he was seething. "She's in a board meeting," Catherine said, trying to intercept him, her voice cautious, soothing. She was clearly trying to calm the storm before it broke. I, on the other hand, gave him a wide grin. "Hey there, big shot. Long time no see." His eyes narrowed dangerously. "You're asking for it." Oh, I was. But the truth was, he already lost, and he didn't even know how bad it was going to get. He growled. I feigned fear, raising both eyebrows with exaggerated innocence. "Oh, now, is that any way to talk? This is business," I said, my tone light and teasing. "It was a fair competition. You won the girl, we won the deal. Isn't that what they call a win-win? Why so hostile?" I leaned in slightly, voice lowering with deliberate edge. "Besides, you have Catherine now. What more could you want? Are you really that upset that the gang corporation made a profitable deal?" My words hit their mark. Nick stood frozen, his jaw tight, his fists clenched, so hard I could see the whites of his knuckles. He had nothing to say, speechless, pinned by the truth. Catherine turned to him, cool and composed. "He has a point, doesn't he?" Nick stared at her, incredulous. "You're taking his side?" Catherine exhaled slowly, folding her arms. "That's not what I mean. We got the West Side land. We can present it to my father as a wedding gift. He's already agreed. What are you still unhappy about?" Nick looked like he was going to have a stroke. You could practically see the vein twitching in his forehead. The West Side land was peanuts compared to the deal Isabel had just made with Sterling Global. That was the real prize. That was the crown jewel of corporate partnerships. And Isabel had swallowed it whole, with me standing right beside her as the lauded hero of the hour. Seeing the utterly defeated look on Nick's face, I couldn't help it. A snicker slipped out. He immediately shot me a glare that could kill. I raised both hands in surrender. All right, I said, backing off playfully. "You two lovebirds should go talk this out in a conference room. The new chairwoman will be out any minute." That's right. Because of this massive deal, Isabel had just been promoted. She was now the largest single shareholder and the newly appointed chairwoman of the board for Giancorp. The crown now sat firmly on her head. She held all the cards. Not even Catherine could touch her. Because of this, Catherine and Isabel ended up having a long, quiet heart-to-heart, a conversation full of long overdue honesty, gentle rivalry, and a surprising amount of grace. With her usual silver-tongued persuasion, Isabel managed to convince her younger sister to stand down. Catherine officially gave up her corporate ambitions. She traded the boardroom for baby bottles, content to retreat into the role of a domestic goddess, Nick Thorne's elegant, supportive wife. And honestly, I admired her for it. As for me, I stayed by Isabel's side. I threw myself head first into learning the ropes of running a global corporation. Numbers, logistics, brand strategy, international law. It was a whirlwind. I even invested a small chunk of my own fortune back into the company. Isabel, in return, gave me a ridiculously generous stake. her way of keeping me close and keeping me happy. My days became a blur of activity. One moment I was playing golf with investors, the next I was whining and dining clients from Tokyo to Berlin. Isabel buried me in work, no doubt about it. But whenever I looked like I was about to crack from the pressure, she'd smooth things over with something extravagant: a luxury watch, a villa in Tuscany, a private weekend trip to Monaco. Before long, the office was buzzing with rumors. Whispers trailed behind me like perfume in the hallway. Apparently, I had become Chairwoman John's boy toy. Her boy toy. I was speechless. On second thought, it wasn't so bad. All of this, it was still business. And it was making me filthy rich. I hadn't really lost anything. In fact, I was gaining. Isabel treated me well. We worked like a well-oiled machine, a power duo that people underestimated at their own peril. There was no way I was leaving. And between you and me, I couldn't have outplayed her even if I tried. 3 years later, Catherine and Nick's child was born. I accompanied Isabel to the baby's christening. It was a quiet, lavish affair held in the garden of a private estate, all white linen, tents and fresh orchids. When Isabel appeared at my side in a fire engine red dress that hugged every inch of her like sin itself, my heart stopped. Literally skipped a beat. Oh no. I think I'm in love. But she was a ruthless corporate titan. A queen who conquered kingdoms in high heels and diamonds. I could never win that game. What was I supposed to do? As if reading my mind, Isabel flashed me a devastating smile and tucked her arm through mine. Feeling a little envious, she murmured, her voice a low purr. Your ex-wife has a baby, and you're... She let the sentence hang, her eyes gleaming. Well, a pity about what the rumors say, darling. Everyone's saying the reason she divorced you was because you couldn't perform. Now she has a child and you're still all alone. Tsk. Tsk. Hey, who was slandering my name? I demanded, utterly indignant. Catherine and I never even slept together. How are we supposed to have a kid? Isabel leaned in closer, lips brushing my ear. Want to prove them wrong? My brain short-circuited. How do I do that? I asked, before I could even think. Isabel's eyes danced with mischief. It's just having a baby, she said, matter-of-factly. What's so hard about that? Then she looked me up and down, slowly, deliberately. I could do it, she said with a sly smile. I was floored, absolutely floored. Isabel wanted to have a baby. With me? My mind, ever the pragmatist, immediately jumped to the most important question. Okay, but how will we calculate the shares? Isabel, I added quickly, you can't go back on your word about this. Because clearly, another once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make a fortune had just landed in my lap, and there was no way I was going to miss it.